The tourists go to Bannockburn or to Culloden Moor. We weech them through the city at 70 miles an hour. These places have but one event that makes them worth being seen. 1,000 years of history have marked the Glasgow Green. Find out about that history on this episode of Astonishing Glasgow. For this episode of Astonishing Glasgow, I'm going down to Glasgow Green, but rather than talking about what's on the green, I'm going to go round the outside.
Round the outside, round the outside.
You may not be aware that the people and events of Glasgow's past are celebrated by having a gate to the Glasgow Green named after them. It's a bit like Glasgow's version of Hollywood Boulevard. As I'm getting to the green from the Pomedy side, I'm entering the green from Richmond Gate. In recent years, Richmond Gate has become the name of an area of housing in the Oatlands development. But to get to the Richmond Gate on the green, you need to go down Provost Way and cross this footbridge onto the green, where on the ground in front of you, you will find etched into the path, Richmond Gate. Richmond Gate is named after a previous Lord Provost, Sir David Richmond. Sir David Richmond was the Lord Provost of Glasgow between 1896 and 1899. But what did he do to gain a gate on the green? As it happens, in his 3 years as Lord Provost, David Richmond left a significant scratch on the city. It was thanks to Provost Richmond that the People's Palace on the Green was built in 1898. He was there for the laying of the foundation stone of Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum, and as well as organising the building of Tallcross Park, he arranged for the building of another park on the other side of the Clyde, which was named Richmond Park in his honour. Sadly, a lot of the park has been built over in the past few years, but it does explain why this street is called Provost Way. I guess the redevelopment of the park is soon going to continue once they've built this new road bridge over the Pomedy Burn. If you're a local, you'll probably know this burn better as the Jenny Burn. And if you're really local, you'll also know that this burn was the subject of a scandal straight out of the Hollywood movie Erin Brockovich. Locals noticed that the burn in which their kids were playing would often turn bright green. Nearby was the location of J.J. White's of Shawfield. This was the UK's largest producer of chromate products. The employees became known as White's Whistlers due to the damage the chromate had caused to their nasal passages and their propensity to whistle as they breathed. It is no surprise that a company that didn't worry about its workers also didn't really worry about the environment around the factory. The hexavalent chromium that had leached into the soil would often reappear after heavy rain, turning the burn a bright green. Efforts have been made to clean the area, but to prevent contamination of the burn, it has been culverted for most of its route as it passes through the Oatlands, only reappearing here as it enters the River Clyde. Somehow I've ended up further away from Glasgow Green than when I started this video, so I better cross back over the footbridge. The first Pomedy Bridge was built from wood and opened in 1901. Destroyed by fire in 1921, it was replaced by a bridge built by Sir William Arrol & Co., who amongst other things built Tower Bridge in London and the Forth Bridge near some wee village called Edinburgh. Never heard of it. That bridge lasted until 1955, when it was replaced by a concrete bridge that was then demolished in 2015 due to it becoming unsafe. Now the Forth Bridge spans the river right here, opened in 2018, costing £1.8 million. Back to exploring the gates of the green, and as I will circle the green anti-clockwise, I'm going down to Allen's Pen Gate, just off Newhall Street. If you are a long-term watcher of Astonishing Glasgow, you'll know that I made a full episode about Allen's Pen all the way back in July 2022. A link to that episode is in the top right of the screen, or in the description below, but the important part is that the gate stones and the Allen's pen marker by the side of the Clyde have survived the building of the new apartment blocks on Newhall Street. We'll now follow the edge of the green from Newhall Street to a part known as Daisy Green. On the way there, I can't help but notice that there's a gate with no name. You know, the Astonishing Glasgow Gate has a kinda nice ring to it. Just saying, just saying. Right next to the brand new Astonishing Glasgow Gate is a gate into the Daisy Green section. The Daisy Green is fenced off, separate from the rest of the green, because there are war memorials, memorial trees, and right in the middle, the spiral sculpture, which Google Maps depicts like this. The Glasgow Green time spiral does exactly what it says on the tin. The ancient nice stones, I think that's how you pronounce that word, I am not the Scottish geologist, but the ancient nice stones have been arranged in a spiral, with the tallest central stone marking the formation of Glasgow's Daisy Green by Robert McFun in 1773. As you travel out from the centre, you are travelling forward in time, and on some of the stones are plaques marking important dates in the timeline of Glasgow Green. A lot of the plaques show subjects that I've covered in past episodes, like David Dale on Charlotte Street from episode 35, James Watt, who I talk about in episode 28, and the Dolton Fountain, which I mention in episode 63. There are of course lots of plaques and lots of history mentioned in the time spiral. The very last plaque was added in 1996 to mark the previous renovation of the People's Palace. Next to it, however, there are 4 empty stones in the spiral, and since we've already decided that the gate that we've passed is going to be named the Astonishing Glasgow Gate, there's plenty of space for the next stone to be marked as the Astonishing Glasgow Stone. Anybody? Maybe? Now this video is about gates, not spirals, and within a stone's throw from here, quite fittingly, is McFun's Gate. Robert McFun was a wood turner and the owner of the Greenhead sawmill. He funded the formation of this area of parkland in 1773, which was known by McFun's Park or Daisy Green. I haven't been able to find out much about Robert McFun. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but it's definitely the fun way to do it. McFun's Park is not the oldest part of the green. The first mention of Glasgow Green being referred to as a park was in 1175, possibly making this the oldest park in Europe, but as you can see, I'm on the way to the next gate. This is another gate I've covered in more depth in a previous episode. Hugh MacDonald was an explorer of Glasgow in the 1850s, when the city was much smaller than it is now. The stories of his rambles around Glasgow were serialised in the Citizen newspaper and unbelievably popular. He was the original influencer or blogger of Glasgow, with his tales of far-off lands like Kelvinside and countryside villages like Maryhill. Sadly, he caught pneumonia on an expedition to Castlemilk and passed away in 1860. He was buried in the southern necropolis, and this gate on the corner of King's Drive was named in his honour. He also has a memorial on the Glasgow Green, which unfortunately I can't get to today due to the World Pipe Band Championships, but here are some pictures I took of it whilst making the previous episode all about Hugh MacDonald. If you want to know more about Hugh's story, check out episode 45 of Astonishing Glasgow after you've watched this one. Following the fence line and enjoying the pipe band practice gets me to Binney Place outside the old Templeton carpet factory. At the top of where it meets Monteith Row is Templeton's Memorial Gate. In 1889, when builders were nearing completion of the spectacular Templeton's carpet factory, disaster struck. The front elevation of the building was blown over in strong winds at around 5:15 p.m. on November the 1st, 1889. This was the last bit of the factory to be completed, and the weaving sheds were working at full capacity behind it. The women weavers wouldn't finish their shift until 6 p.m. that night, so when the building collapsed, it fell into the sheds, costing the lives of 29 young women. The youngest of those was 14 years old, and the oldest was 25. The building was finished in 1892, but this time it was built with a steel frame. Today it is now apartments, offices and a brewery. And in memory of the women who lost their lives, this gate is named Templeton's Memorial Gate. Now that we are out of the Green and on Monteith Row, there are another 2 gates on this road to visit. The first of these overlooks the People's Palace and the Dalton Fountain, and it is another story I have told in far more detail in an earlier episode. The Calton Weavers' Gate is named to remember those 6 weavers who were killed while protesting for workers' rights in 1787. In episode 34 of Astonishing Glasgow, I tell the full story of the events that happened that day, and then I visit the graves of the weavers in the Calton Burial Ground in the East End of Glasgow. The last named gate on Monteith Row is dedicated to Maggie McIver. Born in 1879, though the gate does say 1880, by the time she was 12 she worked on a stall at the Candleriggs Market in the Merchant City. She met her husband James while working on her fruit stall, and together they started a business renting out hand carts or barrows. The local council wanted to stop street trading, so Maggie hired her 300 barrows to traders on her yard at Marshall Lane, eventually covering the market to protect the clothing hawkers' stock. It became a tradition at the market for Maggie to host a Christmas party for her traders, but when she couldn't find a venue one year, she decided to open her own ballroom, and that's why the world-famous Barrowland Ballroom was built and opened on Christmas Eve 1934. I've strayed quite a distance away from Glasgow Green again, so while I get back to the Green, this is a great time to hit that like button if you're enjoying the video, and hit that subscribe button to be notified when I upload the next episode of Astonishing Glasgow. This is Charlotte Street, the subject of 2 earlier episodes of Astonishing Glasgow, as it was one of the locations of the McLennan Arch, talked about in episode 17, and this was the street where David Dale lived, talked about in episode 35. Fitting then that the gate at the end of Charlotte Street is also the David Dale Gate. This is another place where the World Pipe Band Championships have got in the way, but they start the day after I was making this video, so I was able to get away with poking my camera through the fence in the direction of the women's toilets, something I certainly wouldn't be able to do the day after. The guard in the gate was brand new, but his boss had a face like a muddy welly when he walked past and saw me filming through the fence. But never mind, I got the footage, and this was the best angle I could get of David Dale's plaque. Check out episode 35 for his full story. It is worth checking out because he is one of Glasgow's good guys. I'm now on Green Dyke Street, and there are 2 gates along this stretch. This is Castle Boyns Gate. By the name you might expect me to be talking about a castle or a fortress, but it's not as exciting as it sounds. The Green was common land, and a place where women would come to wash clothes in large wooden tubs known as boyns. When they were not in use, the boyns were stacked up, which gave the impression of a high castle wall, and the area soon gained the nickname of Castle Boyns. The next gate is only about 150 yards away, and it is known as Mumford's Gate. William Mumford was an Englishman who moved to Glasgow in 1834 and opened a theatre on Green Dyke Street. His theatre was known as a penny geggy, and it is just visible on the left of this picture of Green Dyke Street, taken around 1894. Built from wood and getting its name from the Scots word for a show, a geg, it was a very affordable place of entertainment for the ordinary working man. Mumford only ran his penny geggy from 1834 to 1843, but the building did continue as a theatre until the 1870s, when it became a clothes shop. It was eventually demolished in 1902, and apart from having this gate named in its honour, there is nothing left of Mumford's penny geggy on Greendyke Street now. From Greendyke Street, round the corner to the Salt Market, and possibly the most used gate on the green, the Jocelyn Gate, though some of those who walked in this way wouldn't have the chance to walk back out. Jocelyn's Gate was originally known as Jocelyn's Square, and named after a Cistercian monk and Bishop of Glasgow, who in 1175 persuaded King William the Lion to grant Glasgow its borough status. So it's particularly fitting then that I am making this video in 2025, Glasgow's 850th year as a city. This end of the green gained infamy in 1814, when it started to be used as the site of public executions, directly across the road from the High Court of Glasgow. Between 1814 and 1865, 67 men and 4 women were executed right here. Back down to the Clyde, from a gate where people died to a gate where people are saved. At the end of St Andrew's Suspension Bridge is the Ben and Sarah Parsonage Gate. The Glasgow Humane Society was formed in 1790 to protect life on the River Clyde. It is the oldest life-saving society in the world, and in 1920 Ben Parsonage became an officer of the Glasgow Humane Society. In 1937 a house was built for Ben and his wife Sarah, overlooking St Andrew's Bridge and the Society's lifeboat station down below. The Parsonage family still live in the house today, and 3 generations of their family have devoted their time to rescue people from the river. They are credited with saving over 3,000 people since 1918, and long may they continue. From the house of George Parsonage, I'm now starting in the direction of my house, but I'm not finished yet. The last few videos I've made have been made in the middle of summer, and as much as I'm sunburnt and sweaty, it is great to see the parks full of life. Before crossing King's Drive, I'm passing through James Cleland's gate. James Cleland is responsible for the layout of the green. He planned the route of the roads and the paths when he was the Superintendent of Public Works and set about creating a formal park between 1815 and 1826. As it was him that planned the roads, it was him that planned where the gates were, so ultimately this whole video has been influenced by the work of James Cleland. From this point, my journey home starts. Crossing King's Drive and passing the hockey and the football facilities, I really hope you've enjoyed this circle of the green. If you have, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, it really helps my channel grow. If you want to help me make more episodes, grab some merch over on my Spreadshirt page, or if you would like to donate directly, hit that super thanks button below. Every penny is gratefully received, and these are the superstars who donated after the last episode. If you want to get in touch, leave a comment or head over to my social media pages. All the links are down below the video in the description. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time in Astonishing Glasgow. Oh, right, I'm off for a Jubilee to try and cool down. Carly, I hope your Granny Betty has got you in an Empire biscuit to enjoy while you're watching the video. I'll see you all later. Bye now.